Two men, twin sons from different mothers, with a passion for voiceover recording technology and the desire to make recording easy for voice actors everywhere. Together, in one place, George Whittam, the home studio engineer to the stars, a Virginia Tech grad with an unmatched knowledge of all the latest gear and technology in voiceover today. Dan Leonard, the home studio master, a voice actor with over 30 years experience in broadcasting and recording, and a no-holds-barred, myth-busting attitude for teaching you how easy it is. Together, finally, to bring you all the latest technology, the superstars of voiceover today, and leading the discussion on how to make the most of your voiceover business. This is VoiceOver Body Shop. And now, live from their super secret multimedia studio in Sherman Oaks, California, here are George Whittam and Dan Leonard.
Good evening, I'm Dan Leonard.
And I'm George Whittam.
And this is VoiceOver
Body Shop.
Or VO.
BS.
All right. Well, a little bit of a delay. George, you are in Denver, Colorado.
I am. I'm all the way in Denver, a suburb of Denver called Westminster, and I'm on location here, on vacation. Took a little vacation this week.
On location and on vacation.
On location and on vacation. This week I'm working, but I'm working from the lovely home of Jordan and Mara here, and it's just really cool to be able to travel and see friends in the business, hang out, and do a show. I mean, the technology is fabulous, isn't it, to be able to do something like this?
Yeah, and I'm all alone.
I know.
There's nobody here. Usually it's like people are crowded into this thing on Monday night, but no, it's just me tonight. So
That's
maybe
right.
Someone could bring me a beer or something, and we'll see what happens. Anyway, I've been demoing the kitchen.
Fun stuff.
Oh boy. We figured, contractors are like, well, we'll charge $2,500 to demolish it and then do it. We're like, yeah, one hammer, a couple of crowbars, and that kitchen's coming apart for Mr. Leonard here, I'll tell you.
And a good health insurance policy. Very important.
It wasn't good for the rotator cuff.
Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, we need to thank our sponsors, of course, Harlan Hogan at voiceoveressentials.com and Edge Studios, your employee.
That's right.
Source Elements, the makers of Source Connect Now and Source Connect Pro and Source Connect, all that other stuff that is Source Connect. VO2GoGo.com and Antland Productions, where you can get a killer demo. So thank you, folks, for sponsoring the show and allowing us to bring it to you every Monday night here at VOBS.TV. Very summer-like here in Southern California today, and the weather in Denver is?
It's a chilly one. It's in the 50s, but it's very nice. People walking around Boulder today where I was were wearing light coats and sometimes shorts. So it was very, very nice here.
Boulder is a magnificent community. Just a wonderful, beautiful place with the Flatirons there in the background. And
incredible backdrop.
My brother-in-law lives there. So we get to go there every now and again.
Good choice.
Yes. Anyway, we got Mara Junot on tonight. We're going to talk about her meteoric rise to success and stardom.
Overnight success she is.
Overnight.
She'll tell you the truth.
It was not overnight. We've known Mara for a long time. Can't wait to talk to her a little bit more. Lovely lady and a smart one to boot. Anyway, it's time for...
And now, the VoiceOver Extra VOBS News. The latest and most comprehensive voiceover industry news. Brought to you live.
Alrighty, here's the news from VoiceOver Extra. Why isn't your income growing? Well, recently, VoiceOver Extra conducted an informal internet poll of full-time voice actors asking if their income grew in 2015 over the previous year. The stipulation was that if they've been an active full-time voice actor for at least 2 years, and 72% reported higher income from voiceover in 2015. Still, it was argued that without knowing specifics of each individual situation, It could be misleading to project that result over the entire industry. And for voice actors in their earlier years of this career, and for anyone who's struggling with a balance sheet, a new VoiceOver Extra article by UK voice actor and coach Gary Terza points out 5 things that you may be doing that prevent a rising income. P.S. This advice comes from the UK. Take note of how universal our voiceover challenges are. Number 1, inappropriate targeting. Are you applying for gigs that are totally inappropriate for your voice? Become well acquainted with your voice, and what it sounds like to other people. Number 2, misreading scripts. Do you really know how to pronounce that word of that name correctly? Research. It's guaranteed to annoy your client if you mispronounce their beloved name. Number 3, expectations are too high. Perhaps you set an income goal, but have you documented a business growth plan to get you there? And are you honestly following that plan? If you want to be a high earner but only work the pay-to-play sites, you're not promoting yourself effectively. Number 4, expectations are too low. On the other side of the coin, are you content with low-paying gigs and afraid to aim higher? Cheap is not cheerful. Get out of the bargain basement. You're hopefully capable of more. And number 5, not taking the business side seriously enough. Are you always, quote, looking for work or, quote, selling your services? Get out of that mind trap. Instead, create a business plan. Concentrate on advertising and be professional. Of course, this all assumes you have the voiceover talent to succeed, which brings us to number 6, constant improvement to your voiceover skills and schools. You can get this article and all sorts of other great stuff over at VoiceOver Extra, your daily resource for voiceover information. And thank you for that. Anything interesting in the tech world that you might want to bring up?
Well, not too much going on right now that's new that I've been aware of. I have been a little out of the loop again. I've not been keeping my eyes peeled on the latest news with the travel I've had lately. But we're still holding tight on not upgrading to El Capitan in general.
Yeah.
There are people, of course, plenty of people who are having no problems. There are people buying new Mac computers that are having no problems. It's, at this point of the game, it's usually a few outliers that are having those troubles. But that's still enough to be a little hesitant to want to keep upgrading. So again, I will reiterate this because I can't probably say it enough. If you're going to upgrade to El Capitan, make sure that your software and whatever hardware you're using are already qualified to run on El Capitan. Make sure that there's compatibility there. And even then, make sure you've backed up your machine with Time Machine or whatever you'd like. Make sure you have a backup of your system. So if something does go wrong, you can easily roll back to the original version that you were running before. I can't find any mind-altering, game-changing, life-altering, updates that are in El Capitan. These are probably little tweaks and things that maybe make things a little more efficient if you're using iPhones and iPads along with your Mac. But if your thing is producing a voiceover recording, there really has been almost no real functional updates in the Mac OS that has made the Mac any better at doing that job since probably Snow Leopard. Okay, so
Really?
There's lots of little enhancements, but I know a lot of people that still think Snow Leopard was the most stable and reliable version of Mac OS that they'd had, and things from that point on got a little wonkier. So that being said, I'm running Mavericks on my system back in LA, my home studio, and I'm running Yosemite on my MacBook Air, and both of them have been running pretty much flawlessly. So I'm not ready to make the leap quite yet. I'm going to hold off a little bit longer. As soon as I do make that leap, it'll probably be on my MacBook Air, and I'll be telling everybody about what I think of it.
Cool. Well, here's my technology update. I have the latest in technology here. This is
What is that?
This is a new Universal Model X. It's a carbon button microphone from about probably 1929 or so. But it goes in here. I had the frame broke, so I had been trying to figure out how to fix the frame on this thing, and I finally found some glue that holds this thing together. So
far out.
This thing will then hang beautifully inside here, and we'll have it on the air one night. So
It's it's Dan's Microphone Minute, where you
That's
get to
right.
see the latest microphone project that Dan's working on.
While I'm busy, of course, refabbing my kitchen,
Exactly.
refurbishing the kitchen, or
A couple of
refabbing
people
my kitchen.
chimed in the chat room based on my thoughts on using El Capitan.
And they said?
We did get a few people with their experiences. Anthony Geddick says he's running Pro Tools 12.4, which is probably the latest update, and Adobe Audition, and he's running them both. Oh, Twisted Wave, Pro Tools, and Audition.
All
on
at the
El
same time.
Capitan.
Anthony's amazing.
He is amazing. He says it's working great, so that's good to know. Kevin says the split screen feature is a new thing in El Capitan that he likes. Now, I use full screen apps sometimes on my machine, so I could see why having two of those split down the middle could be handy. It's one of those things that you don't miss it until you've used it, I'm sure. Like, if you'd never tried it, how would you know you like it? But then once you get it, you couldn't live without it. That's what Apple is brilliant at doing. They're brilliant at coming up with things you didn't know you need and making something that was, creating a solution to a problem you didn't think exists, and then before you know it, you can't live without it. So, there you have it.
All right. Well, Mara Junot will be with us momentarily. If you've got some tech questions for us, throw them in the chat room, and we'll get to them, and we'll answer them to the best of our ability, which, of course, is we think is pretty good. We'll find out. So don't go away. We'll be right back after this message.
Hiya, VO friends. You sure you ain't booked a VO gig in 7 years? And your demo is so old that you can hear the clicks from the stock music records? And you hear so much tape hiss that you run to the sink to see if the faucet is running? And the engineer used so much echo on your voice that it sounds like it was recorded in the Grand Canyon? And the scripts seem a bit dated too, advertising the new and improved 1938 Plymouth Road King? Is that what's been troubling you, Bunky?
Well, lift your head up high and take a walk in the sun. Your demo can be killer, too. Just contact Uncle Roy at AtlandProductions.com and book yourself a shiny new killer demo. Show your stick-to-itiveness and show the world you'll never give up, never give up, never give up. That dream.
You're listening to VOBS.
Did you catch that? We are back.
Oh, well, that's good to know. It's a little more difficult being alone here. I'm alone in this building almost all the time anyway, except Monday night when a crowd comes in here. A guest,
Right.
maybe a studio audience. And if you'd like to be in our studio audience, by the way, we'd love to have you here. A couple of times a month, we're going to allow people to come into the vaunted playhouse here, or clubhouse, as John Taylor likes to call it. And just write to us.
He calls it the Honeycomb Hideout.
The Honeycomb, yes, which is an obscure reference that anybody, over 40 will remember. But if you'd like to come to the Honeycomb Hideout, write to us at theguys@vobs.tv, and we'll be happy to have you in here. We usually have some snacks, which usually George eats everything, but because it's a veggie plate. But we have water, and we have lots of light, and we have lots of conversation, and you can meet somebody important. And
Sometimes
you can see
there's something important here. You never know.
right, and you can see how we do this amazing show every week. Maybe not this week when it's just me staring into a camera. And see, I'm so used to, just being able to point to you and do this. Okay, we're going to do that and follow. But
Yeah, this adds a whole new level of difficulty. There's no doubt about it.
right. But
Well,
anyway,
I need to mention our sponsor, Source Elements, tonight before
Go
we
for it.
move on. And Source Elements are the creators of Source Connect. And at this point, you probably haven't been in VoiceOver long if you haven't heard of it by now. And for those who have not, Source Connect's software allows you to connect your studio to another remote studio in real-time audio so that you can stream audio between the two studios. It's as though you're on the other end of a really high quality telephone, or like I always say, Skype. But the quality of the audio is absolutely top notch. It's something that can be used real time and go right into an actual session, straight into Pro Tools at the studio, and they can immediately, and when the session's over, they can immediately start using that audio and edit and put the project out there. So studios that are working on time-sensitive projects love using Source Connect because they can get the audio from the talent, direct the talent, and all of it happens real time. So it's a really amazing product. They've been working on it and honing it and improving it and tweaking it for over 10 years now. And there's a lot of others out there that are entering the fray of audio over the internet, but I think Source Elements, from what I've experienced as a user and someone that's tech supported it for a lot of people, their support and they really take it seriously, and they've brought on a team of support that is really not matched by anybody else in this realm. So if you want something that's really professional with a professional support team behind it, definitely check it out. You can go to sourceelements.com and get a 15-day free trial and start using it right away and see what you think. And join the big boys. Those are the ones using Source Connect, so it might be time for you. So thanks a lot, Source Elements, and we really appreciate your support of VoiceOver Body Shop.
Yep. And I continue to cut my demo with the amazing Cliff Zellman using Source Connect. So and it just sounds fabulous. Well, we'll see.
You
Anyway,
can't beat that kind of convenience because Cliff is working from Dallas.
He is. And then he works with Uncle Roy, who's in Bloomington, New Jersey.
Yeah, so Roy is halfway. You know, it's like you guys are bouncing back and forth between across the country. It's really cool.
Really, it's very cool. It's amazing, how we can like communicate with everybody everywhere, and and I thought I knew everybody in this town until I started looking at other agency rosters. I'm like, I don't know any of these people. What am I doing wrong?
I'm always amazed that I discover new people every week, and it's amazing how many, even just in Hollywood, that are in this business. It's quite remarkable.
I know, and they all show up at the same bar at the same time. It's fascinating. But,
thanks to Jay Preston.
Yeah, thanks to Jay Preston. Speaking of Jay Preston, doing a tech roundtable tomorrow night. Actually, not much of a roundtable, so they're all going to be staring at me. We're going to have a tech night with maybe we've mentioned the Gardner Street Studio series in there. Meet the Pro. They invited me to come in. Cool. Sold out. You can't even go. The place is going to be filled to the gills, and I'm going to do a short presentation, mostly on myths and facts. And so I figured I'd throw out one myth and fact tonight that a lot of people have been asking me about lately.
Good.
And I've done a tip of the week on this, and we've talked about this not ad nauseum, but it's amazing how people tend to confuse these two terms.
Right.
Soundproofing versus sound diffusion, sometimes called sound damping, although sound damping is a whole different deal, isn't it? Soundproofing. All right, you got to remember there are two things that we're trying to deal with a home voiceover studio. One is trying to prevent sound from interfering, from the outside, from transmitting into your booth and into your microphone. You want to be able to isolate yourself best you can. Soundproofing in a home studio is literally impossible. You cannot, unless you put yourself in like a, what do they call it? A sensory deprivation
bunker
chamber. Yeah, I mean, it's not going to happen. It's extremely expensive. You can buy, a soundproof booth, which, if you know anything about them, they're anything but. They're designed as much for someone to keep the noise from getting out as it is from getting in, and the acoustics in them can sometimes be kind of funky.
Yeah.
But for the most part, very difficult to try and create a really quiet space, which is why, unless you have a booth or something like that where you can isolate yourself the best, we recommend using a closet, and a closet full of clothes, because those work really, really well, because clothes are a great diffuser of audio. So don't confuse the terms soundproofing and sound diffusion. A lot of people are saying, I have to soundproof my booth by putting all sorts of foam in it. It's not happening. That does not do anything to prevent sound from coming in. You want to elucidate on that a little bit?
Sure. I mean, there's also, when we're talking about diffusion, you sort of have two other things. You have absorption, or also known as damping, and you have diffusion. So in that world, you have two different ways to deal with the sound inside the booth. You can either absorb it, which is damping, and you can also diffuse it, which is scattering it. So some find that a combination of those two works really well. I have found that in a really small booth, it's very difficult to get effective diffusion to work really, really well. So generally in really small booths, we focus on absorption. So that means covering the walls with materials and making sure that the materials are dense enough or thick enough to control all of the audio frequencies. That's what diffusion and absorption can do. If you want a more lively sort of open sound, diffusion will help that because it'll keep the sound from getting sucked away from you so quickly. You got to be really careful about using diffusion in those really small spaces. So yeah, make sure you don't get those confused. You'll see online soundproof foam, and that's a total misnomer.
Soundproof foam?
There's actually, I think there's a website, soundprooffoam.com, actually.
Pay no attention to those people. They do not know what they're talking about.
Charlatans.
Yes, soundproof foam. Unbelievable. It's the sound. Acoustics are 95% of the quality of your audio, and we've been discussing that for the 5 years that you and I have been doing this show.
Yeah.
And again, you're trying to prevent the transmission of sound into your recording space, and you're trying to prevent the sound that you are producing from bouncing around and creating an echo effect.
One question that's come up over and over for me is actually, what booth should I get? And they're like, do I need the double wall whisper room? Do I need the single wall whisper room? Or so on and so forth. And the thing is, we as tech guys or designers, we can't answer that question without hearing what's going on in the room to begin with. So what I've been telling people is set your microphone up in the room where you're going to be recording, do an actual recording, forget the fact that it sounds echoey and whatever, and get a recording of the actual environment with your voice. Just noise is not noise. It's not noise is noise is noise. You have to know what frequencies the noise are and how loud the noise is, because it's not all the same. And some of it's very, very hard to stop, and some of it's very, very easy. It's very easy to stop the noise from a computer fan. That's just a very soft sound, and if you block that with a sound blanket, you can probably get rid of it almost entirely.
Yeah. Or move the computer as far away from the microphone as is physically possible.
Yeah, that's always very helpful. But other things are not nearly as easy to stop, like the passing of a dump truck or a helicopter flying over. Those are entirely different animals. So we always have to know the full picture. So I recommend recording some audio of the space you're going to be in and at different times of day, so we can figure out what the heck's going on. And then we can recommend a product that's going to work, or hopefully work well enough for you.
Yeah. I was out on a house call earlier this week, and this guy, for those of you who don't know the Valley very well, I was out at the end of the Burbank Airport runway. This guy's way down on Victory. I'm on his street, and I pull up in front of his house, and there are planes flying overhead. And I walk in his house, and I'm like, you picked possibly one of the worst spots to record voiceover on the face of the earth. Apparently, the city fathers and the owners of the Bob Hope Airport in Burbank, which is it's a tiny little place.
Yeah.
Tiny little airport, where you still go walk off the plane on a ramp, and then you're outside, and then you have to take a hike to car rental, but that's besides the point. But apparently, because it's like a neighborhood airport, I guess is the best way to describe it.
Right.
They actually invested in people's houses and gave them lots of double insulated glass, and it's fascinating. And once you're inside the house, you really can't hear it that much. So.
Yeah, there was a similar thing that happened near LAX airport as well, in the surrounding neighborhoods. When they expanded and created a whole nother runway there, they they had to do that improvement. There was a deal they made with the city. So
Wow.
that's really important.
It is. All righty. Mara Junot is with us, with George in Denver, and we're going to talk to her and find out what's going on in her life. And if you've got any questions for us or for her, throw them in the chat room, and Anthony, who I know is in there tonight, will throw them to us, and we will throw them to whoever it is addressed to. So, Mara Junot coming up in just a minute. We'll be right back here on VoiceOver Body Shop. Do not go away.
Every Monday, 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific.
VoiceOver Body Shop. I love when they talk BS about VO.
Learning never ends.
You continue to grow.
Edge Studio has grown. Pursue multiple disciplines in tandem and grow your career. We've added new courses in a new curriculum,
We pick the best coaches from the community of working voice actors.
a new technology division, engineering and consulting led by George Whittam.
Follow your dream.
Sign up for advanced learning or register for an introduction to voice acting or foundation studies program
See it all now.
at thenewedgestudio.com.
You're listening to VOBS. You're listening to VOBS. You're
VoiceOver Body Shop, where you can learn everything from mic technique to how to market your voiceover business to acting your way out of a wet paper sack, which is my favorite, by the way.
In a world of audio, two men knew what they were doing, or at least they have you convinced. They put the BS in VOBS.TV.
Hey, Dan, I love you too. I love you
Oh,
so
we love you, Mara. It's great to see you. And what's been going on with you? Last time I think you were on the show, you were still down in Nolens.
I was still down in New Orleans. Yes, I was in Greater New Orleans for, oh my God, I don't want to say how many decades. I'm not going to give away my age. But yeah, I just recently I've been in South Louisiana since I was 7 years old, and I just finally made the move. For years, I thought I really was just dying to leave.
Switch cameras, George.
I finally made peace with making South Louisiana my home, and then it came time to move. I found this little guy named Jordan Reynolds, and he talked me into going into the mountains, and so here I am.
Guy's pervasive.
Pervasive. So yeah.
Voiceover community like in Denver? I know there's a few people that are doing working the business there. And are you primarily still working out of Jordan's studio now, or your mutual studio, or is there actual voice work going on there too? So where did you guys meet, and how come all of a sudden it's like, wow, we have another voiceover couple, of which there are a few.
I don't even
calling, they're Skyping us, they're calling us.
There's no audio.
1, 2, 3, 4,
George,
1, 2,
there's
3,
nothing
4,
I can
1, 2,
do
3.
about it here, so.
All right, well, whoever's calling me needs to go away.
You can stop it.
Fix the audio.
Somebody's trying to
to
call
your
you on
mic?
Google.
No, it's not that.
No.
It's me. It's the two shot of us.
Oh.
That one, the audio wasn't there. The one shot of us, the audio was there because Wirecast is
Okay.
a pain. So
This is
let's
one of those
pretend
rare.
this never happened.
Okay.
And let's reintroduce. Oh, that one, yes.
Is it working?
remember
Is it
it
working
now.
now?
Oh my god.
So yeah, this is nobody got to hear what we're talking about up until now. But this, did you draw it yourself?
No, I got it done for free at a convention.
For free. So
Anyway, we were talking about how
let me
you guys
start
met.
over by saying, since everything, see, Dan, whenever you throw me a curveball and say, George, why don't you start the segment? That's when everything flies off the freaking rails.
Yep.
Because this show hangs by, people have no idea how much this show hangs by a thread at all times. It is always like, it is Apollo 13, really. I mean, anything could go wrong at any time. And so if one little thing happens out of order, it's all over. But anyway, I'm sitting here with Mara Junot in Mara's place. And Jordan, who's that for? Jordan just put a beer down in front of me. It's just
Nice.
it's just out of arm's reach.
I can't reach
either
either.
of us.
Just
But
enough
anyway,
to tease us.
Exactly. But I'm in Mara's place here near Denver. And I know that you guys didn't hear anything that we've said for the last 4 minutes.
Oh no.
But it's okay. This is what makes the show interesting.
Right, exactly.
People know what to expect. I
Right.
might edit it out later. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
I have never known you to edit this stuff, so
We do the show live for a darn good reason. I do not feel like editing it afterward.
I hear that.
But anyway, Dan, you were doing a lovely interview of Mara there. If you want to pick it up where you left off.
yes. So for those
Go
of you
for
who
it.
missed what we were talking about, then now you can switch to my camera there, George.
Okay.
There we go. That's much better. We were talking about the fact that you were, when we last talked, you were in New Orleans, and you were,
Yep.
and now you're not. Now you're in Denver, Colorado.
Yep, I was in New Orleans for most of my life. I just left as recently as November, and it's all because of Mr. Jordan Reynolds. And plus, I just love it here. It's wonderful out here. George does too. We might be calling this East West. I mean, VO.
VO Denver Shop.
VO Denver Shop.
VO Boulder Sound System. I don't know.
Dan's like, you can't leave me yet. I just got here.
Be careful because the longer I stay here, it's like momentum. I want to stay here for good. I really do love it here.
Trust me, I understand. Yeah, Jordan and I, we've known each other for years. But the funny thing was, it wasn't until we got to know each other better at like the FAFCons and things like that. Because when I first met him, I'm going to show you guys. Let's see if I can. Oh, let me get this code. I'm going to show you guys the picture. When I first met Jordan, we were friends on Facebook alone. And he wasn't showing his face at the time. He was just using his branding with this cheesy cartoon, which apparently was a free cartoon. That I think he got at, was it a fair or something?
Pretty sure.
We'll call it that.
A country fair.
And
it was
this
a 13-year-old kid with the
I don't know if you guys can see this.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
He still uses that.
Now, can you even see where the pupils are? I don't know if he's looking cross-eyed,
yeah, they're there.
if he's looking right, if he's looking left. I know. It was very scary to me.
And then he went to the Mohawk.
Great way to open the show.
Oh, yes.
So we were kind of friends for years, for God, at least 5 years. But I always thought, I was like, who's this creepy guy with the weird cartoon? He was nice. He was so nice, but it's like, I don't know. And so we finally met in person, and then the sparks flew. But it was before that, all I had to go by was this. What are you gonna do with that?
George's plugging in. He wants to listen to what's going on because he doesn't get to hear the other side of the
eavesdropping with
conversation.
headphones.
You should see the rig that we've cobbled together. It's fantastic.
Well, it's working now, and that's all that matters.
Thank goodness.
But anyway, so anyway, you've now you're in Denver, which is a beautiful place. Of course, it's fascinating to drive through Denver.
Yes,
because
so you've been here before.
Oh, I've not. My brother-in-law lives in Boulder, and so I've been through Denver a few times. You drive in one end, it's a city, and then it just stops.
Yep.
And you're in the middle of nowhere, and you're like, where did Denver go?
Right. But it's so beautiful. I kind of love that. That's one reason I really love being here. It's this great mix of being right in the heart of a big city, but then you can just go for a hike in 20 minutes, which is fabulous.
Yeah, no, my brother-in-law just loves it in Boulder and that part of Colorado because it's gorgeous, lots of great hiking there and stuff. But what's voiceover like there?
There is a big voiceover community here. I actually have a wonderful, some wonderful agents here through Go Voices. Love Go Voices. Carol, Josh, what's up? There's some amazing talents here. A lot more so than Greater New Orleans, actually, which is surprising because New Orleans is very popular right now for on-camera stuff. We're kind of known as like Hollywood South is what we're called now. Next to Atlanta, I think we're like #1 in movie production and TV production. But there's not very much of a voiceover community. It was kind of me and just a handful of a couple other people in the whole state that I even knew of that was in voiceover. So here, there's some incredible talents. So it's really nice to be surrounded by such a great community of really talented people.
Did you guys have meetups? Or there just wasn't enough people or enough of a community to even have like meetups?
It's funny. It seems like probably every 2 weeks I find out about some new phenomenal talent and they're like, oh, you don't know this person? He's right there in Boulder, right there in Denver. So I don't know if there's any meetups yet. It doesn't appear to be a big meetup scene, but Jordan and I have kind of been talking about kind of starting something up ourselves because
spare time.
Exactly. We have so much of that.
Yeah.
So.
We all know what it's like. It's like you do this, you work really hard, you get successful after time, but then you realize you're isolated from the community now.
Yes.
So now you create more work for yourself by creating new ways to communicate with other people,
Exactly.
new workout, and before you know it, you're like, why did I do all this?
Right.
But you love it, so you keep doing it.
Exactly.
That's why we do this show.
Exactly. And I'm so glad you do.
Yeah. We actually had a greeting for you. All the way from the UK, actually, from our good friend Howard Ellison, who, by the way, who's been on this show twice, and we haven't heard him either time.
What?
Because his audio never works.
He needs you guys, clearly.
We talk with him all the time, but no, he was on.
Really
we
bizarre.
did a worldwide roundtable, and he's been on twice, and both times he's like, sorry, but anyway, he says. Just a warm hello and congratulations to Mara Junot. We met in an animation That Canadian Victoria Park job. Mara was the star voiceover. He was Ringo Starr breaking his drum kit. With best wishes, Howard Ellison in England. Could you tell us what that's about?
Yeah, I need to know more.
Oh my goodness! Ringo Starr. I wish can we get a feed from Howard? Honestly, I don't even recall that. Oh my goodness.
Because he's sound asleep in England right now and not hearing
right,
any
of course.
Yeah.
Time zone stuff. Oh my goodness. I don't know. I'm drawing a complete blank.
Okay.
I'm drawing a complete blank on that. So he said he was Ringo Starr and I was
You were the star voiceover.
Oh, I don't remember.
Howard, you got to find some footage, man.
But I love you,
Yeah.
Howard.
Well, looking at your bio, you've been doing a lot of stuff.
I do a little bit, yeah.
A little
I
bit.
dabble in everything.
I mean, we could take up 45 minutes and go through some of the stuff you're doing here. I mean, you're doing a lot of IVR. Let's see, the voice and lead role of Krista and Anna Correa in Telltale Games, the North American voice for Sygic GPS navigation. So you're like doing stuff like turn right.
Yes, I am the North American voice for Sygic GPS. It is the #1 most downloaded mobile GPS in the world. So yeah, if you want me to tell you where to go and how to get there, that's exactly what I do.
All right, cool.
And still a voice of AT&T, non-broadcast voice, because I've had some people, they're like, I heard you on that commercial. No, you didn't. You really didn't. I don't do commercials for AT&T. Oh. But if you happen to call directory assistance, nationwide directory assistance, I'm that obnoxious voice of nationwide directory assistance, except my voice is pitched a lot higher when I do stuff for AT&T. I sound more like this. I'm actually a persona when I work for AT&T. My persona's name is Mackenzie. It's kind of like an alter ego. Yeah. It was interesting. The way I actually got that gig was, my goodness, that was years ago. AT&T was doing a casting call looking for someone to kind of sound similar to an existing persona voice that they had, because they were looking to expand their system and there just weren't enough people to take care of it. And I think the existing talent wasn't able to cover it. And so out of like 500 auditions worldwide, I was able to voice match the best. I have what's called, it's not quite perfect pitch. It might be perfect pitch. I like to say it's near perfect pitch. I have a really good ear. So I'm very good at matching tones and pitches and things like that. And apparently that paid off for the AT&T stuff.
Well, you're doing all this stuff, but I don't think we actually know a whole lot about your background, about how you actually got into voiceover. I mean, it's the standard question we ask here on VOBS.
Right.
How did you get started in voiceover? But everybody's story is unique. And then we learn something that's like, oh, there's something consistent and why they've succeeded in voiceover. So tell us a little bit more about yourself without getting into too much detail. Or
Okay,
as much
well,
detail
stop me if I start
as you
rambling,
want.
because I'm good at that.
I'll jab you in the ribs.
Okay. It's funny, it's funny how when you look back and you see how the universe has kind of just conspired to lead you to where you are now. I look back and I have tapes of myself as early as 3-4 years old with my father. I used to bring him out like on weekend afternoons and beg him for us to talk to the recording together. And we would read like Aesop's Fables and all these different stories, just whatever. I'd read the alphabet, addresses, just whatever. I just wanted to talk on the tape. And so we'd sit there on this stupid tape I have and we would just record, whatever we could, children's stories. And it never occurred to me, years later, I always knew I wanted to be an actress. But as I got older, I was just like, I want to be an actress, but I don't want to deal with all of the hassle of being too famous, because nowadays everybody's got a cell phone. Everybody's kind of their own paparazzi and stuff. And I kind of like to have a little privacy. So I really thought being an actress just wasn't an option. And then years down the road, my first venture into actually talking and getting paid, there was a local cable affiliate who was just looking for somebody to voice a few commercials, here and there. It was, I think, a Comcast cable affiliate. And so I started doing that and I loved it. And one of my contacts there was a former DJ. And he said, you're really good at this. You might want to consider getting into radio. And I said, I don't know if I have the personality for that. I've never had any training, yada, yada, yada. But he helped me put together a demo. And, we did these fake weather reports and, did these fake song transitions and everything. And I made a little air check and applied for this radio job in a little town called Houma, Louisiana. It's about 45 minutes west of Greater New Orleans. That's where I was living up until November. And I brought in my little demo and a resume with really not much experience and crossed my fingers. And a few weeks later, I was hired as a midday radio personality on a country station called C107.5 KCIL, South Louisiana's home for today's best country and the legends. And I did that for 7.5 years. During that time, I was a DJ on about 3 different stations. I kept getting promoted. So I started off doing middays live on the country station, and then I got promoted to do a morning show live on a rock station. So I would do mornings on the rock station with co-host, and then afternoons on the country station. And then I got promoted to also do evenings on another sister station that we had. We had 4 stations at the time, and they probably would have hired me on the 4th one as well, but that was talk radio for ESPN. So luckily I didn't know anything about sports. So I was stuck doing 3 stations. The last station was like an adult contemporary station, drive time. So I was kind of on the air all day long. So I got really comfortable with talking into microphone, learning how to read copy, learning how to edit my own audio, stuff like that. And I know radio kind of has a stigma when it comes to the world of voiceover, but it really was helpful in that regard, just getting me comfortable with reading, talking, editing, all that stuff. So I did that for about 7.5 years. And then in August of 2008, it was time to move on. Just change of management, changing of the guard. And I was like, at the time, radio was my dream job. It really was, because I had worked corporate jobs, hated fluorescent lighting, wearing, pantyhose and all that stuff. Right. And I just really...
I know what you mean.
Yeah, I know you do.
I did not know that.
Dan learned something new after 5 years of working on this show together.
But yeah, it's like I did the radio thing, and at the time I was like, this is the best job ever. I get to talk for a living, listen to music, and make friends all day. And when I had to leave, I was heartbroken. I said, what am I going to do? And so I started kind of digging online, and actually I saw the pay-to-play sites for voiceover, and that's really how I got started, was through pay-to-play. I know everybody's kind of got a different path, and that was mine. Living in Houma, Louisiana, with no contacts in the industry. I had no designs to move to New York or LA at the time, no agent. I said, I got to do this on my own. And so it was just kind of being in the right time in the right place, because just 10 years earlier, I couldn't have done, what I did starting online. I would have had to make the move.
Yeah.
So I got on the pay-to-play sites and just started hustling, I really thought about going back to school. I said, maybe I need professional broadcasting training. I didn't know where to start. But then I just decided, I said, you know what, I'm going to start treating this as if I was going back to school. So I put in the hours as if I was going to school, and I just started immersing myself in the world of voiceover. I said, when I put my name on something, I want it to be the best, and I want to know everything about it. I'm very OCD about things, and very too much sometimes. When I get on something, it's kind of hard to get me off of a tangent because I'm just obsessed. And so once I found voiceover, I was spending probably 12 to 16 hours a day just listening to podcasts, getting on bulletin boards, those still exist, Facebook, LinkedIn groups, whatever I could find, buying books, podcasts, anything I could find to just find out about the world of voiceover, because I was in love. Marketing myself, started coaching, working on my demo. And within the first year, I landed my first big campaign. I became the voice of Oric vacuum cleaners and filters, and that lasted about 4.5 years. And in my second year, I got my goal was to be the voice of big, Fortune 500 companies. I was like, I want to be a household name. I want to be the Morgan Freeman of commercials or whatever. Morgan Freeman was my bookings. Yeah, Morgan Freeman. That's it. I went into this business with the mindset that I'm going to be the best I can be. You know what I mean? I'm not here to be a budget talent. I'm not here to I want to be as good as possible. And so I just set this goal that I'm going to work for some of the biggest companies in the world. And I really didn't have a prayer in hell at the time because I had no training, like I said, no connections, but I hustled and it paid off. And somehow here I am hanging with you guys.
Very
and I'm
cool.
still pinching myself.
Well, let me ask you this. What do you think was the thing that really made you turn the corner, that really got you to where you are now? Because you just signed with a big agency in Hollywood and things are really starting to take off for you. What do you think was the tipping point that pushed you that way?
It's hard to pinpoint it with one specific thing. I think it's just a combination of things. First off, the connections that I've made in this industry, people like you and George, just going to amazing conferences and meeting other phenomenal talents in this industry and getting inspired by them. And just, that's really probably been my biggest thing is just, being inspired and trying to stand on the shoulders of giants and seeing what people are doing right and trying to do my best as well and learn from that. That's really all I can say. I wish there was a magic bullet or magic formula, but like you said, everybody's kind of got a different path to this business. And I think that was the biggest thing for me is just really trying to learn from the best and be my best and try to also, I would say for me, I think I've always been a bit of a rebel, as you can probably see from the piercings and things.
That's always been one of my favorites.
I just never have quite liked doing things exactly like everybody else. I would say if there's one thing that I would say is a key to my success, it's been I try to learn from the best, but then do things a little bit differently. Just kind of put my stamp on it in a little different way. For instance, if the commercials or if commercial trends are a certain way, I follow that, but I also try to learn to get comfortable with my own voice and put my stamp on it. And that took a long time. My voice if you hear my voice, it took a long time before I got comfortable with my voice. It's deeper. I always thought it sounded like a man because it's very bassy and it didn't sound like other girls. Growing up, I just never felt feminine.
I totally know what you mean.
Right?
Yeah, like totally.
I don't buy that one for a second, but yeah.
When I first got in this industry, I was really self-conscious about that. My mother always gets compliments on her voice, but people never really complimented me on my voice. So, this is an industry where you kind of expect you have to sound really great.
It's just we all know it's the biggest misnomer in voiceover is like, you've got a great voice. Right. You should be in voiceover.
But that's kind of what we've grown up on, right? In the 80s and stuff, that's kind of what it was. It was about the smooth delivery or just having something interesting being polished. And I just felt like I never had that, or like I said, I have a really deep voice. I could sound like a guy if I want to, So I've scared a few ex-boyfriends. I'd answer the phone as like I'm a guy. So I was really self-conscious, but then, I always heard going into this industry from some of the greats, it was just like, find your voice. That's what people want. They want your voice, your brand, and that's what's going to book. And I just really didn't believe that. I was like, yeah, but you haven't heard my voice. But I really have to say it's true. It sounds cliche, but the more I got comfortable in my own skin, my own voice, and just kind of owned it, more and more I started hearing just positive feedback. I heard the positives about my voice. People were saying, what, your voice is deeper, but I like the power behind it. I like that you can do these reads that I would normally cast for a male, but I wanted a female, but there weren't female voices that were strong enough. So your voice kind of lent that strength and authority. I get a lot of, I hear a lot that I have a very authoritative voice. So I would say, find your true voice, get comfortable with the sound of your own voice and learn to love it and then let it go and just go.
Right. That's the challenge. You have to learn to love it.
Yeah.
And then you have to let it go.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's something a lot of people have a lot of trouble with. Well, we have a reel that Jordan has actually put together for us that shows off some of the stuff that you've been doing on. So why don't we roll that, George, and then we'll be right back with Mara Junot.
The Dark Lord's spear shattered as it pierced the heart of our god. As the fragments fell, they corrupted the land. But some of us manage to master their fell power, to become something more than human, and lay waste to the Dark Lord and his legion of devils.
Here it comes. See you later.
You and an 8-year-old versus 3 of them, huh?
We handled it.
Yeah, it looks like. What if you hadn't? I'm gonna go make sure the noise didn't cause us any problems.
That's a good idea.
I hope you know what you're doing with her.
We're still alive, aren't we?
Yeah, you are.
You are late. No more excuses. Now start with some cleaning. Be careful to keep everything in order while I am away.
Yes, ma'am. I'll get right to it. Starting with that creepy painting.
No! The painting is not to be touched by anyone.
I can't believe my wedding is just a few days away. Anthony and I have been together for ages. So I want everything to be just right. I thought the day he proposed was the happiest day of my life. But I think the wedding will be even better.
Learning never ends.
You continue to grow.
Edge Studio has grown. Pursue multiple disciplines in tandem and grow your career. We've added new courses in a new curriculum,
We pick the best coaches from the community of working voice actors.
a new technology division, engineering and consulting led by George Whittam.
Follow your dream.
Sign up for advanced learning or register for an Introduction to Voice Acting or Foundation Studies program
See it all now.
at thenewedgestudio.com.
Are you confused about how to set up and maintain a professional quality voiceover studio? No wonder. The information out there is mostly mythology. This is the best microphone to use. You have to have a preamp. You need a soundproof booth. This software is the best. Your audio must be broadcast quality. Consult with someone who knows the truth. Someone who's been there, in the trenches, doing voiceover for over 30 years. Someone with unparalleled experience with voiceover studios, who's worked with hundreds of voice actors and designed hundreds of personal studios. He knows how to teach and cares about your success. In one of the harshest environments known to voiceover, your home. Dan Leonard, the Home Studio Master. Separate myth from fact and get a handle on your personal voiceover studio. Contact the Home Studio Master at homevoiceoverstudio.com. Drop off a specimen of your dry audio for a free analysis.
Having dinner tonight? How about having some VO too?
Voiceover Body Shop.
Have some voiceover with your dinner tonight on Voiceover Body Shop, 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific.
You're watching VOBS.TV. I don't know why. It's crazy what they do here. I think I'm going to go somewhere else and have a cheese sandwich.
Oh, George forgot to hit the headphone button. Woohoo!
Oh, George.
All right, go for it, Dan.
Well, that sound tells me that we're back.
That sure it is. It sure does.
Boy, coming in with a bang, as opposed to a whimper, as T.S. Eliot once wrote. But anyway, we're back with Mara Junot, talking about her career and stuff. And we've got, if you got a question for Mara, throw it in the chat room, because I know Anthony is in the chat room tonight. He's been a busy guy. He's been in Guatemala, and he's running his business, selling coffee now, too, from what I understand. But he's in there, and if you have a question for Mara Junot about the amazing success that she is achieving these days, or just, what variety of lipstick she uses, throw it in there, and we'll get it on there. But anyway, Amy Sorenzi asks, question for Mara, which is good because you're the guest tonight.
Right.
Congrats on everything, Mara. As an emerging talent, I'm in the initial marketing stages of reaching out with my demo. Can you share what the accepted method is to reach out? For example, cold calling, email, traditional snail mail. based on the type of recipient. For example, video production house, ad agency, explainer producers. The work it takes to do the marketing doesn't intimidate her at all. Rather, ensuring that I do my marketing with the appropriate etiquette is something I'm finding a little tricky. So
there's the key word, etiquette.
Right.
The
Etiquette.
Yes.
Etiquette. That's
Tell us about it.
Great question. And actually, cold calling is not even my strong suit. I have to say, I'm a very passive aggressive marketer. I've been very fortunate in that I have built up, I'd say, the majority of my business strictly through the profiles I've built online, the networking I've done. I'm not a cold caller. I'm surprisingly very shy. I can be very introverted. I'm not good at getting on the phone and selling myself. So most of the things that I've done as far as connecting with agents and things like that have usually been via email or in-person connections at conferences and things like that. First of all, I would say do your homework. If you're interested in a particular agency, look at the agency roster, see if you know talent who are on that agency roster, and then get in touch with them. And referrals are always going to be your best bet when it comes to agents as far as how to get connected with a good agent. If you want a really good agent, they're not just going to take anybody. Of course, they're looking for the creme de la creme. So people who are already on their roster and who've already been vetted, the best way to get vetted is to be vetted by, somebody who's already, in the game. So, see who's on the roster, talk to them. But even better too is people higher up, say coaches who are connected with that agency. It's oftentimes a good way to get connected. Start doing more VO coaching with coaches who you find have a good connection with the agency you're interested in it, because then they become familiar with your work. They see what you can do. And once you start getting to the level that you need to be at that agency, oftentimes those coaches will give you a direct referral. So that's a great way to kind of get started there. But also just look at the website, do your homework on the agency itself. Everybody kind of has different methods nowadays. I've actually seen some agencies to this day that'll still take CDs, which is very rare, but some people do it. It's a way to stand out. But, you don't want to just start sending CDs to everybody to stand out. Some people will specifically say, no unsolicited submissions. So just do your homework first, I would say. Go to websites, talk to people who are on the roster and see what the protocol is from there. As far as production houses, those are usually a little bit less formal. It's usually more a matter of just making a phone call or email, and it's kind of just a matter of preference. Because sometimes making the phone call can be a great advantage when they hear your voice, but a lot of times, people are just busy. So you just kind of have to experiment. But etiquette isn't, just the fact that you're using the word etiquette means you're already on the right track. You have a good sense of being polite and where you need to be. And I don't think you're going to overstep any bounds. But this is a business, like they say, it's not what you know, it's who you know. So making friends is always helpful. So see who you know in this business who's already connected to the places you want to be, and it'll take you places.
It doesn't hurt. Networking is important in any business, and in voiceover Absolutely. It's important. But it's important not so much to network with your fellow voice actors. I mean, there's only about 10 million of us. It's important to try to learn to network with the people who hire us.
That's right.
And what are some of the ways that you go about doing that? I mean, some people say, well, be on LinkedIn. Well, LinkedIn's a cool place, but what are some of this? How do you do some of the networking with people who hire us?
For me, the way I've done my best networking, I'm not like a social media guru. When you see what I do on social media, it's just my random, streams of consciousness, whatever's on my mind at the time. I try to be real. I want people to know who I am. Some people, they strictly post about voiceover, or they have separate this and that. And I have a separate business page and a personal page, but for the most part, I really, when I'm on social media, I'm not heavily focused on how am I going to get, more buyers into my life, which I know is a bad thing. And I should do that more as a business person. But for me, my connections have been more, I would say, through conferences and just networking events. I've just come to learn there is no substitute for the power of shaking hands and meeting people in person. And that's kind of the challenge that we deal with in this industry because we spend so much time being isolated. Sometimes our only contact with other people is through an ISDN session or a phone patch session. Most of the time we're kind of working on our own. We're directing ourselves. We look at the specs. We kind of assume what the client wants and we go for it. So it can be a very lonely business. So for me, as far as making those connections, I found that getting out as much as possible, whether it's some sort of local meetup related to voiceover or an official voiceover conference, that has been a great way to just once people see that you're a live human being, there's some power to it. I can't explain it, but there's just a difference between somebody seeing your name and knowing your work and actually shaking your hand and seeing you in person and having a laugh with you and realizing you're a person they'd like to have a beer with. It makes all the difference. Yeah, so I'd say get out of the booth a little bit. That helps.
And you're clearly one of the best people to have a beer with. I will attest to that.
Absolutely. I got the beer ready.
Yeah, we really didn't talk about that clip very much that Jordan had put together. A lot of video gaming stuff. It seems to be pretty heavy duty with you these days.
That was some video game samples of things that I've done. Video games are probably really my favorite thing to do. I do everything, as you know. I do telephony, navigation systems, a lot of corporate narrations, apps, you name it. But when it comes to just really having fun and getting to be a real actor, video games to me are where it's at. So I've been really fortunate to be a part of some amazing projects. And I don't even have an official, I'm embarrassed to say, I don't even have an official animation or video game demo yet.
Well, we just saw it. So
yeah, that was kind of it. I think
Jordan
that was the
spent
reveal
5
of
minutes
my
and
new...
boom, there's your demo.
That was pretty good for being whipped together real quick.
That was literally just slapped together.
I gave Mara no notice. I was like, we're like, half hour from showtime. Like, sometimes we show reels and stuff, and you're like, oh crap, let's cut something together.
We need footage.
And you guys banged that out. That was really good.
So yeah, you guys just witnessed history. So
you can use it now.
Your demo.
Go. Steve Gonzalez.
Yeah, video games are probably my favorite thing to do because, I love my other clients and I love the things I get to do day to day. But in video games, you just really get to encompass a character and really get to dig into acting. And, I'm a bit of a shapeshifter. I have a million different voices, a million different personalities. So anytime I get an opportunity to jump into that, video games lets me do that. So it's so much fun.
Yeah, a huge growth part of our industry, and
yes,
it's just fabulous that if you can get consistent work in that's great to have, because like you said, it's acting. That's what we really want to do, and there's the chance to really, most of the time it's like interpret the copy. No, it's like, how about interacting with other human beings, which is really what we do.
Exactly.
A lot more fun. Steve Gonzalez asks, question for Mara. Weather in the Big Easy versus weather in Denver. How long did it take you to get acclimated, and how long did your voice take to get acclimated? Because really, one is at below sea level and one is a mile above sea level. Did that make a difference?
That's a good point. I thought I was going to have a big culture shock and all of this. The only time I really notice a difference is when I'm walking upstairs. When I walk upstairs, just in this house, I walk up these stairs that you see behind me. And by the time I get to the top, I'm just like, I am old. I'm out of shape.
It's no wonder most of the people you see around here are under 40.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's
fit and hiking in the mountains with 2 beers in their hand. And I'm just like, I'm old. It's pretty bad. But other than that, I really did notice a big difference. I remember the first time I went to a bar in Denver, everybody's like, elevation, watch out. You're not gonna be able to handle it. And I'm like, I'm from South Louisiana.
How about the humidity versus the dry?
Now that I have noticed a little bit. It hasn't affected my voice terribly, and it's probably because we constantly keep humidifiers running, which is that's a switch. Because at my house in Louisiana, I always had a dehumidifier running, and within 2 days, a bucket this big would be full of water from the air.
Of your own sweat.
Yeah, exactly.
That's basically what that is.
Pretty much. So now it's the opposite. I'm
just
pumping
condensation.
Yes.
It's not her actual sweat.
Nobody ever thinks about what that bucket of water actually comes from. But
it's soapy. It's weird. It always has bubbles.
It's gross.
So yeah, that I thought would be, really extreme on the voice and everything. I do have to drink a little bit more water here, but it's not a huge transition so far. I actually noticed more of the contrast when I was in Vegas for WoboCon. That the first meeting we had last year, the first get together, I went to speak to somebody and say hello to an old friend, and it was just like, I was like, what's happening?
Yeah.
So fortunately, it's a little more tempered here, a little more moderate here.
You guys coming to WovoCon this year?
Absolutely.
Oh,
I've got the airfare. We've got the plane tickets booked, but I don't know if we actually booked the WovoCon tickets, but that's going to happen.
Yeah, you might want to do that.
Right.
Yeah. George and I are driving there. That ought to be an interesting few hours.
Nice.
We're bunking together.
Yeah.
Oh, it's going to be great.
We've done that
I
a
want
few
to put
times.
it to that. I think we need a VOBS show of just that
Behind
in the
the
hotel,
scenes.
behind the scenes, pillow fights and everything.
The odd couple.
No, I remember at one FAFCon, we were all at a party in somebody's room. And I'm sure there are some other people who are watching the show that remember this, where security actually came and said, you guys are too loud, you keep it down. Here's a bunch of middle-aged people sitting there going, having a party. I'm like, yeah, security's kicking us out.
Everybody's like high-fiving.
That's when it's official party, is when the cops show up.
Amy Fisher, the real Amy Fisher, by the way, asks, we talked about how you got into voiceover. Do you sing at all?
I do sing. I don't have like a license or anything,
You
but
don't
I
need
did
a
a little,
license to
I did a
sing.
little singing in college, and like I said, I have the near perfect pitch, so I have a really good ear. I love to karaoke. I'm a karaoke fool. But I don't get a lot of opportunities to sing in voiceover. I do any opportunity I've had, like for auditions where you have to sing a jingle or something for kids. I never book it. I don't know if that's a sign, but I think I have a decent singing voice. So yeah, I do.
Well, that's cool. My wife is
in New Orleans. If you can't sing,
Right. You just bury yourself in the bayou. Forget about it.
I must say, my wife is like getting interested in doing jingles, and now that we're here in California, we got to find some people who like produce jingles. 'Cause
Right.
She can
Do
spot
people
read
still
music.
do jingles? I've been wondering about that.
Yeah. Well, there's something we can talk about later.
Right?
When we
Just
get to
sit
Vegas.
back and relax. It's time for some announcements.
Yeah. All right.
We got our own jingle.
I love it.
Yeah. Anthony asks, so many radio folks run from their broadcasting background when they get into voiceover. What benefit did radio have on your voiceover career? Any specific skill habits that you still use from your broadcasting days?
That is a fantastic question, Anthony, and
'Cause
thank
he's
you
a
for asking that.
fantastic
Because
guy.
you're right. In this industry, you mention radio, and it's kind of the kiss of death. It's like, oh, you don't want to sound like a radio person, and it is true. The radio world is a little different in the approach as far as kind of how you read copy and how you deliver your message and everything. But I have to say, working in a small market, small market radio for almost 8 years was really helpful because I didn't have my own production team taking care of my editing. So I learned Cool Edit and Adobe Audition because I had to edit my own stuff, my own commercials, my own interviews with people on the air. So it was just so helpful. I felt by the time I got into voiceover, I felt really prepared in a way because reading copy and having a sense of timing for, say, a 30-second spot for a commercial or 60-second spot or 15-second, if somebody asked me to shave a second off of a spot, that's nothing for me. Whereas I've seen on-camera actors who can't do it and they say, this is impossible. And I'm just like, I can eyeball a script and have an immediate sense of the timing, you know what I mean? Because voiceover in general is just so musical. I have a strong musical background, and you start to see the patterns between the music and the timing and things like that. And so it's a really musical business, and getting to practice every day with just reading copy and learning how to talk to one person. Because even in radio, that's what you have to do. In radio, you're as a personality, you're trying to be somebody's best friend. You're trying to talk to them one-on-one. You're a little more perky in general than you are in voiceover. In voiceover, it's a little more laid back in general, just a little more being you. Whereas in radio, it's more about being a personality who's this host, who's your best friend. But, it's not this huge disconnect, I don't feel. I really feel if you don't focus so much on the differences, you can really, if you do have a radio background, and so many people in voiceover do, you can take so many of those skills with you. almost 8 years in radio was so helpful to me. I have to say, just this industry in general nowadays, you have to do so much on your own, and it's intimidating. You can be the best actor in the world, but if you want to be a voiceover talent without representation or without an agent, starting out like I did, in a small town where there's no studios around, you have to learn that technical side. You have to learn how to read a waveform and edit it. And you have to learn what, dB is, and noise floors and equipment and mic cable. And it's a lot of information. So, I have to say, if I didn't have that radio background, I might have royally been screwed. It's just one of those cases where, again, it's like the universe just kind of sets you on the path to where you need to be. And all of those years of experience of, dealing with my own audio and learning how to read copy and talk to people, it paid off by the time I came to voiceover.
Yeah. Well, I think that's
radio
definitely
can be
the
your
case.
friend.
Yeah. The same thing for me. It was, radio was, that's how I learned the technical things that I need to teach other people with, simply reading a VU meter was like, people don't even, what's that?
What's that?
Well, that's if you understand that, you can understand a lot about doing, recording your own voice. So
yeah,
that's an important thing. We got to take a quick break here because we have to talk about, of course, David H. Lawrence the 17th and vo2gogo.com because, during February he's been teaching about ACX and he's got an amazing ACX masterclass. And to realize how good this class is, in the course of the last year, half of the graduates of this course have over 700 books in the Audible marketplace. That's a lot of work. So David must be teaching them something proper. But he's got a master class teaching you how to use ACX. A lot of people say, look, if you're doing a lot of voiceover work and you get the chance to do an audio book, it fills the time between when you might have a job or so. I know David does that when he's, when he doesn't have a TV job or something like that, but he's always working. He's a great actor. But when he doesn't, he does a lot of audio books and he's teaching people how to do it through the ACX Masterclass. And the way to find out about these classes is go to acxmasterclass.com. If you want to deep dive into the techniques, the strategies, the tactics, and the processes to maximize your success on ACX, this is the class for you. Go to acxmasterclass.com and register. And it's a great course. And I know he's going to be doing some new stuff in March. And so go on over there to acxmasterclass.com and vo2gogo.com and learn all about the great stuff that he is doing over there. And we're going to take a break right now, and we'll be back with Mara Junot and finalize a few questions with her right after this, so don't go away. VoiceOver Extra, the voiceover industry's online news, education, and resource center 24/7. Hundreds, probably thousands of free how-to articles for voiceover success, ranging from home studio to voice acting to business. A free voiceover industry directory, calendar of industry events, resource links, a store, and much more. Bi-monthly webinars on all topics of voiceover, free subscriptions to newsletters, reports, announcements, daily news, and features at voiceoverextra.com. Are you confused about how to sell?
VoiceOver Body Shop. Learn the latest in voiceover technology. Learn how to get rid of that. VoiceOver Body Shop. 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific on VOBS.us.
And we're back. One of our great sponsors, a guy who has been with us, George, for almost 5 years, because George and I have been doing this show for 5 years. That guy is Harlan Hogan. This guy is, aside from Bob Sauer, he is the third nicest guy in voiceover. A knowledgeable guy, a guy who's been doing this for years and really understands the business of voiceover and has a lot of great stuff to offer you at his website, which is voiceoveressentials.com. Now, one of the things that he invented that everybody thinks about is the porta booth. Everybody tries to make their own. They go to Target, they buy one of those cubes, they shove some more. It's not the same, kids. It really isn't. If you want to have a good travel rig, one of the best things you can have is a Harlan Hogan official Portabooth Pro or Portabooth Plus. Great device. It comes in its own carrying case. You can carry your cables, your interface, your computer, your underwear, everything will fit right into that little case, along with a professionally designed sound diffusing kit for your hotel room or your mom's bathroom or wherever it is you're visiting.
Does he sell voiceover underwear yet?
I don't know, but I think he should. I know he has the hats that say, I do VO. Or as heard on
that
TV.
On your underwear.
Yeah, no, but I think we'll suggest that to him next. But
extra bass trapping.
Ooh. I hadn't thought about that one. But anyway, go over to voiceoveressentials.com and check out those two models because one might be right for you. Instead of building a pillow fort on your bed in a hotel or grabbing the duvet cover or one of those things, have a Portabooth Pro with you. It certainly is a great conversation starter. What's that blue thing you're carrying? Why, it's a Portabooth Pro. What does that do? I'm in voiceover. Really? I might actually have a job for you. See, it's the perfect thing to have. Go over to voiceoveressentials.com, and the easiest way to get there is if you just go down the page right below us, where George and Mara and I are appearing to you right now, and you will see Harlan Hogan talking into one of his great Portabooth Pros, and click on that, it'll take you right there. Not only will you find the Portabooth Pro and Portabooth Plus, but you'll also find the VO1A Signature Series microphone, the Signature Series headphones, and all the other great stuff that Harlan Hogan has over at voiceoveressentials.com. So go over there now, spend your hard-earned voiceover dollars there because it will help you earn even more hard-earned voiceover dollars. Thanks, Harlan, for being a tremendous supporter of VOBS all these great years.
Thanks, Harlan.
Yeah.
You're the man.
All right. Mara Junot.
Hey.
How you doing? All righty. Let's see here. What other questions we got? We had a couple more questions from our amazing audience. Let's see. Trey Mosley. How you doing, Trey?
Sup, Sha?
Do you get work in the international market? We all know you do a killer British accent.
Trey, did you ask that on purpose? Yes, I do. I do surprisingly a lot of British work. Sometimes it's crazy. Sometimes as much as 50%, probably, I'd say at least 50, maybe even 60 or more of my work can be British.
Really?
Which is insane considering I've never crossed the pond yet. I grew up on a lot of British comedy. Beatles are my number one band of all time. I grew up on Monty Python and Keeping Appearances and Faulty Towers and stuff. And
do not mention the wall.
Keeping Up Appearances.
Oh my God.
Great.
So I love British comedy, and because I guess I have that really strong ear, I've absorbed a lot of it, and I surprisingly book a lot of British work. I do British voice work for World Bank. I've done stuff for Intel and just companies left and right. And I've had actual Brits direct me in a session. Talk about intimidating.
Wow.
The worst I had was 7 Brits directing me in a session, and I was sweating bullets. Because I was like,
Whoa.
Okay, here we go. This is going to be the test.
Yeah.
And the director was like, it sounds good, love. Just, harder on the T's. Just more precise on the T's.
But did you stay in character the whole time?
I stayed in character the entire time.
Did they know that you were putting it on?
I don't think they did. No, they did by the end.
Okay.
Because I think I told them during one of the segments. But most of the time, I've actually had a lot of clients who don't know, which is funny because if you go to my website, most of my work is in American English.
Right.
But I've actually had some clients, go, oh, this is great. Do you have any samples in American English? Yeah, I can hook you up with that.
That's almost a reversal of reality these days, because most of the time it's the Brits come here and they can do a very passable English or American accent, but Americans have a really hard time doing it. So you've got something very special going on there.
Well, thank you. I trust me, I feel honored because, I know some amazing British talents, and there's no shortage of them out there. So the fact that people will take a chance and hire me to do the work is I am eternally grateful. You know what I mean? I just feel like it's such a blessing. It's really kind of surreal, because I know what the competition is like these days. And like I said, I know personally just some amazing talent. So yeah, it is an interesting role reversal, but definitely not complaining.
Yeah. Now we build the show with a special guest of Jordan Reynolds, who was probably like sitting behind you or something.
In front, yeah.
We had Amy Fisher had a question. Says, are Mara's Jordan produced demos making a difference? Okay, that could be awkward or great.
I kind of answered in the chat room, but you can.
Pop your head up there, Jordan.
Nobody's going to see each other. Here, get up here.
This is video.
Get cozy. You got to really squeeze in to get on camera here. Lean back. Come on.
Am I in frame? This is my first time on camera.
Here.
Hi guys. Hi. Hi. Thanks for having me on the show.
Funny.
Oh my god. Okay, what was the question? All right. Hey Amy, I already kind of answered her, but in short, we produced a demo. We actually did the first spot on Periscope together. We had Johnny George was on there. Jennifer Knight, who we're missing. Anyways, but long story short, we reproduced her entire commercial demo with new spots, whether they're produced or existing spots that are airing. And we made it edgy, we made it different. And it seemed to get the attention of her new agent at William Morris. And so she landed a meeting and this awesome girl got signed right after. So, but no matter how good the demo is, at the end of the day, you got to be able to showcase the talent. It's a team effort. So that's the best way I can answer the question. She's kind of my, I can use her as an example to be like, well, yeah, I mean, that's the only reason she got signed is because I produced the demo and she's all right, but it was because of my demo.
Yeah. But you got to be able to deliver in the booth when someone hears your demo. So
absolutely.
Oh, and she did, and they tested her for like an hour or an hour and a half with scripts in the booth during her meeting, and she kicked ass. She kicked ass. So
no, but I mean, it really, I mean, it's gonna sound, I don't know, not cliche. I'm trying to think of the word. It's gonna sound like I'm just saying this, but I really was beyond blessed to know Jordan and to have the connection with him, to have the accessibility to have him do my demo. Because honestly, I mean, I love his work. I've loved his work for years. I mean, he has an impeccable ear. I have a very finicky ear, and he's one of the only people I know who has an ear as finicky as I do, just the sense of musicality that I do. And I'm just very particular about demos, even though I'm not the demo producer myself, I do like to have a lot of input in the process. Because demos, I feel, not saying this as any sort of expert, but I feel demos are kind of like, a good demo is like a song. It's like a song you don't want to change the radio station with. Your goal is to tune into that radio station and not tune out until the end of that song. And so, there's just something about having the right rhythm, just the right contrast, the right pacing. And Jordan and I are very much on the same page when it comes to that. And I respect his choices. I am blown away by, what he is able to do with just the dimension that he gives demos. And I had a vision for what I wanted to do when I revamped my commercial demo, because I did my first one myself, which I don't recommend for most people, but because I have a very picky ear, it got me by. It got me a lot of work, but it was time to update it. My commercial demo was originally, I put that together back in 2008. So I knew when I wanted to redo it that I wanted something fresh, and I wanted somebody that, kept up with trends and just had the same sort of ear that I did. And I was blown away by what he put together for me, and it clearly paid off.
Yeah. Plug.
And I'm not saying that because he's poking me right now.
Yeah. Well, I got to tell you guys
I'm poking
something.
you because you haven't paid your invoice.
Well. But I got to tell you guys, I am so happy for the two of you, because it's great to see people, meet, and people have a lot in common. But clearly, we see some happiness there, and that's, George and I love to see that when we meet people and talk to them, and we're real happy for you guys. And
Thank you.
You get to live in Denver. That's nice.
Right?
Yeah, it worked out pretty well. I had an ultimatum like, look, you're hot and all, and you're like, you're pretty good. But if you want to stay with me, like as a couple, you got to move here. I'm not going to move to the swamp. So
He's a little high maintenance.
So yeah, and she, and she gets free rent. So
that is
it
true.
works out pretty well. It's
now we're getting into the TMI department here.
So when Mara and I, when it fizzles out because we're getting a little bored of each other, hit me up and we'll hook up a deal and you can have free rent too.
Jordan at JordanReynolds.com.
Alrighty. Okay, guys, thanks so much for being with us and being a host for our show tonight.
Thank you so much for
That's right.
having us. Love you guys so much. This is an honor. I mean it. I can't tell you enough how much I love you guys.
Not just a host for the show, but a host for me too.
Oh, I know.
Thank you.
This is surreal.
Oh,
I love you
we'll
guys
get
so
up.
much.
Wait till we
Thank
get
you.
to see each other in April. But anyway, George, you've got something coming up here that you've got to talk about. A Twisted Waves webinar of some sort.
Yeah, I do. Here at Edge, let's pan
right
left.
There we go. Look at that shit. Look at that shit.
That is smooth, man.
Okay, cool.
You should see what we got going on here. Actually, Jordan took a couple good shots of our setup, so we'll get them up on the site.
The camera
Might see
monkey.
some cats in any moment.
Yeah, the cat is the boom operator.
Yeah. The cat laying in the trusty pup bed over there, which cracks me up.
I know.
No, the Edge Studio is going to be doing a Twisted Wave for Mac webinar that I'll be teaching. And we do 101 and 201s. The one we're talking about this week, actually, is a 201. And it's for people that already have a handle on Twisted Wave and kind of want to learn some of the more advanced features, things that you don't learn that first time around, the things that are power user features, things that improve your productivity, maybe things that are for audiobook narrators or people that do e-learning. There's a lot of little secrets to Twisted Wave. So that's what I'm going to be talking about. And it's a 2-hour webinar. It's going to be limited to 20 students this time. And it's going to be on Tuesday, March 22nd. It's from 7 to 9 Eastern Time. It's $99, and it'll be taught via a webinar format. So you'll get a recording afterward. If you want to sign up for that, you can head over to the link, the direct link to where you'll find it is at edgestudio.com/twistedwave-4-mac-201-webinar. So that's where you can go find it.
Did you get all that down, everybody?
You can just call us at 888, that is 888-321-3343 if you were still trying to figure out how to find it. Anyway, that's coming up.
All right. Well, and now's the time to say goodnight. But we've got a few announcements. So do we have the announcement?
Just sit back and relax. It's time for some announcements.
All right. Well, coming up, we've got a month worth of great shows coming up here on VoiceOver Body Shop. Next week, February 29th, Monday night, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, and it's 9:30 in Newfoundland. Hope Levy, owner of VAN, the Voice Actors Network, and her 9-year-old son, Sam, doing voiceover for cartoons in person. We haven't really talked about the youth market at all, so bring your kids in to watch the show too, because they should help you pay the rent as well. And apparently Sam is doing that for Hope. March 7th, maybe Howard Kogan. So George, you get on the phone. Howard Kogan.
Howard Kogan?
Maybe.
Maybe.
We have a definite
Well,
maybe on Howard Kogan.
A definite maybe.
Yes. March 14th.
He's a busy guy, that guy.
Susan Boyahan. You've heard her for years in cartoons, from Fat Albert in 2004 to The Simpsons to SpongeBob.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, on-camera work, ADR voice for movies. She also coaches at the VoiceOver Connection in L.A. So
right.
that's on March 14th. March 21st, our once-a-month marketing show. Peter O'Connell, freezing his tuchus off, still back in Buffalo, but still an expert on voiceover marketing for commercials and narrations, known for his marketing tips. I miss Peter. He's a great friend and that sort of thing. March 28th, Debbie Derryberry will be here in this studio, sitting right next to us. That ought to be a great show. Not a tall gal, but big talent. Although I think somebody else uses that actual phrase. So that's on March 28th. So in about a month or so, we'll see Debbie Derryberry. Great gal. Donors of the week, Eric Aragoni. And there were a bunch of other ones, as I renoticed as well.
There were. I didn't get to put them into the show notes, so I'll do it the manual
Do it
way.
manually, yes.
Let me go into the donations box, into our email, and start reading from the top down. We got Brian Page came in. Thanks, Brian. We've got Amanda Fellows. George
Hit your
Whittam.
camera, George. You're just staring at me, and I'll just...
You want me to be on camera?
Yeah.
Okay, you got it. Now I'm on camera. My dad, George Whittam, Senior.
Thanks.
Thanks, Dad. Eric, as we mentioned already. We've also had donations from fastedits.com. See, people are starting to understand how to get little plugs in. Just donate some money and we will mention your name.
Shameless promotion. That's the name of our show.
That's right, yeah. Shelly Avellino, who not only volunteers for the show, but donates money. Thank you. Thomas Pinto, Maureen Vogel. What else do we got here? Philip Sapir.
Excellent.
And Michael Martin. Thank you, everybody.
It helps. The show ain't cheap to do, but the fact is we can do it anywhere because of you. We've got the equipment, and it helps immensely. And if you want to donate to the show, there's a button right above us here, I think. It says Donate Now, and that will take you to PayPal and donate whatever you'd like. But it helps, and it allows us to expand this show. And we're expanding tonight because we're running about 10 minutes over, but that's okay.
Yeah.
It was great stuff from Mara Junot. Let's see. Opening sequence reads, try them, guys. You got to time them right, though. And we got to add the sponsors in, too.
Yeah, we'll work on that. We got a new one coming. We actually got a new one coming in. I just didn't have the time to get it into the show. I promised to work on that for next week.
And I have it on good authority that Cliff Zellman is remixing our music. Our theme.
Oh, sweet.
Only him playing guitar in there, the way I had imagined it back
Awesome.
when we moved back here. So it was kind of interesting. So I can't wait to hear it because Cliff's a great musician, aside from being a great engineer.
Yeah, a lot of people probably don't know that.
Yeah. Let's see here. Podcast. You know where the podcast is. You can find anywhere there's a podcast. The show notes, of course, from Jack DeGolia, sitting out there in the desert, writing every word down that we say during this show. And
Not only does he do the show notes, he also helps pick out some of the essentials.
Yes, which
we're
we're working.
Ramping up again.
We're going to ramp those up so you can watch something that's 3 minutes long as opposed to an hour and 42 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But you still want to watch the whole show, and we're really appreciative that you do. Let's see what else. Well, that's about it. You want to be in our studio audience? Again, write to us at the guys at VOBS.tv. Or if you have a technical question that you didn't throw in the chat room and you want to ask on the show, write to us at that same address, the guys at VOBS.tv. Again, thanks to our sponsors, Harlan Hogan, VoiceOver Extra, Edge Studio, Source Elements, and VOGO2GoGo.com. Antland Productions also for providing what is essentially a huge amount of money just to do this thing as a live stream, and we appreciate it. And the more of you that watch, the more expensive it gets, and that's fabulous.
That's right.
We're doing it for you. By the way, we have a new Mug Man coming up.
Yay!
If you stuck around, I should have mentioned that at the top. Brand new Mug Man. This one was something that Jacob and I, conceived about a year ago, and he rewrote it, and we had to recast it, and now it's finally done. So that's right after the show, and we have to thank Anthony Gettig for a great job in the chat room tonight. Shelly Avellino when he's not there. Jack DeGolia for the show notes. Catherine Curtin, our fabulous producer, for putting up this great lineup that we've got coming up in the next month or so, and Lee Penny for being Lee Penny. Well, that's going to do it for us. It's kind of tough because you're there and I'm here, and we'll be back together next week. And it's more fun when we're together because I'm alone here. There's nobody here in the studio. Anyway, we'll see you next time, folks. I'm Dan Leonard.
I'm George Whittam.
Yeah. And this is VoiceOver
Body Shop.
Or VO.
BS.
All right. Stay tuned for Mugman. We'll see you next week here on VoiceOver Body Shop. Have a great week, everybody.
Bye.
Oh, my favorite fire monster is Gugamek. It's so orange. I want one.
I don't think they exist, Pimenta.
Well, they might in another dimension. You want to build a portal later?
Do we know how?
No.
You really keep me guessing, Pimenta. Boy, is it getting dark. What a shady-looking place.
Maybe it's from another dimension.
Not by the handle. Well, since we're here, we may as well look around. Cute baby. That's not a baby.
Oh my gosh, Mugman, he's adorable. He has your eyes.
Pimenta, that's a hippopotamus.
Oh.
The animated story of Genghis Khan. Someone hasn't done their research.
Mini snack. Snack. They didn't spell it right. It's not edible until it's spelled right.
Rat leash, snake leash, fish leash. What, no cassowary leash?
Press me. Well, if you say so.
It says royalty-free Christmas, so have some eggnog and beer. Spread some Christmas, love and cheer.
Oh my gosh, are you alright? I gotta call 911. Why did you ask me to press you? Why?
Pimenta, it's a toy.
Oh.
Ooh, computer games. My favorite. Let's see, bottled water billionaire.
Yo-yo. It will improve the childhood.
3D puppy fetch.
Party poppers? They didn't spell that one right either.
357 games in one.
Funny animal. I don't get it.
Zing Bop 3.
Frunk Gunks.
Cow Zoo